Good morning. Assuming it's morning wherever you are. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I want to start off with our regular spiel. I want to make sure that you can all see and hear me okay. You know, we always trust the technology until we don't, and then it hoses us. Hey, Mason, fantastic. Glad you can join us. So, what we're going to do today, and let me know. Okay, Timothy says you can see and hear me, which is great for me. So for you, right? Okay, so as we start off today with our lecture, remember in this lecture series, I've been saying, hey, it's not a history class. These are not history lectures, although they are really going to feel like history lectures. They're going to feel like history lectures because this week we're talking about Plato and Aristotle. Now, I know that's ancient history, literally, right? However, remember, we're not looking at Plato and Aristotle because we care about when they were and what their philosophies were and who influenced them and what their influence were on Western culture. And yeah, we don't care. What we really care about is how certain ideas that are familiar to us today really came about. So where did ideas of retail and division of labor and so forth, where did they really start and how do they influence us today? And I've got this bad boy in the way. I'm going to move that over. All right, fantastic. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Yes, we're going to be looking at readings from Plato's The Republic, an insanely famous and well-studied piece of literature, philosophy. But what we're really interested in is the idea of division of labor. Now, I know you know what division of labor is. We totally get that, right? I'm a teacher. You're a accountant, you're a manager, you're a truck driver, you are a politician. Division of labor, okay? But what we really want to explore is, how did this come about? Why did it come about? Where does it make sense? Where does it not? Okay, so we are actually going to start off today with two questions. So I'm going to ask the first question first. That's kind of the order it goes in, right? And then we're going to ask the second question second, all right? So we're probably going to get up to our 10 participants and 10 awesome comments pretty darn quick, which is great for all of us, right? So with that, let's come over here. And the first question I want to ask is this. Okay, you're just starting your career. Let's presume for a moment that you're just starting your career. And for many of you, this is true, right? One that will guide you for the rest of your life, all right? You're starting a career that's going to take you down a certain trajectory for the rest of your life. What should you consider when deciding what to do as a profession? Okay, what should you consider as you decide what to do for the rest of your life? All right, let's take a minute or so and see what we come up with there. And where's my asking question? There it is. Okay, fantastic. Let's come back. Let's take a look at some of these comments, and they're awesome comments, right? And by the way, we are going to be adding. Oh no, wrong button. There we go. We've got. All right. So Jared, who just had an awesome comment. We have Timothy, Ryan, Mason, Jeremy. Okay. So let's take a look at these. Jared says, "What skills you currently have, what interests you, and what you can see yourself growing in." That makes really good sense, right? What skills do you have that you can leverage? What are your strengths? Because you want to build off of your strengths. And what interests you? Because hell, you're going to be doing this for 50 years. You ought to do something interests you and what you can grow in. I really like that. Timothy, I think career you choose should be something you're passionate about and hopefully have some skills in. Passion often comes up, and we're going to talk about passion a great deal today. Because, yeah, you want to be invested in it, right? You want to care about it. I really like it. Okay, Ryan, so consider what you love again, and kind of the passion side. Very nice. How you value your time versus money. I super like that, right? Because, you're going to have to make some sacrifices and some considerations as you go about your career in terms of time and money. And so you want to think about that deliberately. So, really good point. Mason, making money over your personal time. Yeah, right. You only have so much time. You got to make money. How much time are you willing to invest for how much? I really like it. Jeremy, what might be the trend of technology that may require you to contribute, to be competitive in your career field, such as continuing education? Very nice. Tristan, Eisenhower matrix applied to your lifetime, lifelong, short term, stepping stone goals. Make a particular career choice, help move toward achieving those goals. Yes, sometimes some of us are really goal oriented. Tristan is super goal oriented. I am mega goal oriented. So, where do we see ourselves setting goals and achieving those? And where do we have the best opportunity to do that? Hayden, we got some more comments and contributors. Kind of what Ryan said, but the amount of time that you spend working versus the amount of time you spend with your family and friends. And you know what, Hayden? Even though it's not a previous lecture, you referenced a previous comment. I really like and appreciate that. So I'm going to add that to the previous lecture one, if you will. So just so we can pull back and see what we have here. Yeah, absolutely. You guys really hit on some really good points. What do you have an interest in? What passionate about? What do you really enjoy doing? That's right, Hayden, we're getting there. I mean, only a few minutes in and we're getting there, right? And then what you see yourself growing in, what there's a market for, what you can set goals for. Very nice. Very good. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask a second question now, and let's explore this one for just a few moments. This second question is, you found yourself on a desert island, okay? Just somehow or another, all of you guys were on a desert island. What would it take to create a functioning community? We need to survive. We need a functioning community. How does everyone get the things they need to survive on this desert island? And Timothy, yeah, it's just us. All right. There's only like a dozen people on this island. Okay. So what are we going to do to survive? So let's explore that one a little bit. Okay, let's come back and take a look at this. And by the way, Aaron is with us, so welcome, welcome. The system was giving him a hard time. I don't know why. Okay, so let's take a look at our comments now. We're on a desert island. We need to figure out how we're going to survive and so forth. And by the way, well, we'll catch up with that in a moment. So Jaime says, some sort of leadership, all right? We need some sort of coordination to make sure that the right things are getting done. Absolutely. Timothy, figure out food and shelter, work together to make sure everybody's needs are covered. All right. So, need oriented assignment of tasks. Very nice. Very nice. Jeremy, in my own personal experience, and that's a real world example, I'm just going to go ahead and put that one right now just so that, oh gosh, there goes the chat thing again. So, I need to pop out my chat. Okay. There we go. Okay. My computer, it gives me a hard time when I start pushing buttons. I guess that's what it's designed to do when you push buttons. It changes things. Okay, my own personal experience, I did a 20-year military, respiratory therapist, and now shifting completely to a different career, found that passions change. Very good. Hold on to that one, folks. We're going to come back to that. Mason, communicate and figure out resources on the island. Very nice. It depends on what the resources are. So notice you guys are doing task-oriented assignments to meet the physical needs of everyone, considering what the resources on the island are. As Mason said, you guys are nailing it. Jared, assign responsibilities to individuals in order to make sure that things are completed. I love it. This is great. Shelter, food, we got to make sure we get these things done. Ryan, organize structure against the people based on knowledge and skill sets, and then individual goals, based on those skills. Aaron, figure out who's best at which jobs and play toward each other's strengths. This is really excellent. So first of all, not only without, I know for a fact that we've got 10 on both sides. So everyone, fantastic. You guys sure know how to hit it out of the park really early on. So you know the drill. 84310. 84310, and I'll hook you up. All right. Email me 84310, and I'll even write this down in case you're like, what? Email 84310, and you got some credit coming your way. Okay, now here's the thing, guys. Both those questions, they're exactly the same. However, the way I phrased them was, the first question was, what are your desires, your personal ambitions? What do you want out of a career? The second way I phrased the question was, what does the community need? Okay, what is the community willing to support you in the work that you do? And when it comes to this reading, this whole question of individual versus the state, this is the whole thing that we're exploring. Because, yes, we always think about what we want to do, what our passions are, what we enjoy, what we want to get out, how much money we want to make versus how much time we want to invest and so forth. But on the other hand, none of that, the economy doesn't care. The economy, the community, the state doesn't care what your passions are. They don't care how much time you want to allocate and so forth. The community says, these are the needs we have, and these are the things that we're willing to pay for. Now, I really like this, this kind of Venn diagram here. Not because I agree with it 100%, but because it really kind of helps us think about what we're looking at here in terms of the question. So yes, we want to look at what we love to do. what we love doing, and what we're good at. And what this particular Venn diagram says is, well, that's your passion. If you love doing it and you're really good at it, that's your passion. But I got news for you. If the community doesn't need it, I don't need to look that far over. If the community doesn't need it and they're not willing to pay for it, I don't care how passionate you are. You're not going to make a living doing it. This world is full of really talented, passionate people who are pursuing a passion that the world just really has no interest in terms of paying you for. So if you really, really, really enjoy making sculptures out of marshmallows and you're really, really good at it, great, do it. That's a wonderful hobby. Make sculptures out of marshmallows, put them on Instagram now and again. You'll get a follower or two. That's great. That's wonderful. Explore it. However, if you're hoping to raise a family of 7 on these sculptures, you might be in for a rude awakening, right? So on the other hand, there's plenty of things that the world needs and they're willing to pay you for, and that's kind of your vocation. But gosh, if you don't have love and passion included in that, then you're going to live a pretty darn miserable life just punching the time clock and earning the money so that one day you can retire and die in a decently designed coffin. We don't want that, do we? Right? And yet this is what the economy says, hey, we totally need it and we're willing to pay you for it. All right? So let's see. Jeremy says, I have a degree in 17th century Latin, right? Yeah, 17th century Latin, but there's not a huge market for it, okay? Now, I want to be clear. Remember, this is a critical thinking class. There are outliers. There are people somehow or another who are able to translate a 17th century Latin degree or a marshmallow sculpture company into something weirdly successful. Those are the outliers. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying that you're really, really taking your chances. On the other hand, if we can somehow or another find this sweet spot, right, where the needs of the community and what they're willing to pay us for and what we're good at and what we love doing, if we can find that sweet spot, well, that's pretty darn great. I'm not saying it's a given that it's going to happen. Sometimes in our lives, we have to kind of lean over here a little bit more just to pay the bills. And then maybe we can lean over here to kind of have fun and self-actualize. But if we can bring the two together, that's pretty darn sweet. However, this really shows the question of the individual versus the state. All right? Are we to pursue a career that is solely for our own selfish desires and passions? Or do we pursue a career that's solely to, meet a commercial need on the side of the market and make widgets, right? We'd like to find something in the middle. Okay, so with that in mind, let's kind of remind ourselves of what we've gone through with these lectures thus far, just so we can kind of ground ourselves, in the moment. So we've talked about trade in the form of barter. We talked about that in some extent. We talked about production and distribution and money as a universal abstraction of value, right? And then we talked about some conventions and laws that allow us to do business outside of our immediate relationships, which means our economy is getting pretty darn sophisticated. And so that means that there's going to be a division of labor. Now, the question is, should an individual focus, and this is what Socrates in the reading, Socrates asks. I know it's Plato, but Plato is telling the story of what Socrates asked. Should an individual focus on just one occupation, or should they, focus on being self-sufficient in everything, right? Well, when Socrates comes down, and by the way, I'm going to give you an answer to a question I'm going to ask later. Okay? So hang in there. I'm going to give you a question to an answer to a question I'm going to ask later. Socrates is all about the state. He is not about the individual. Now, we revere Socrates, and rightfully so, and the influence he's had on Western culture is immeasurable. But there's a few things that you might be surprised about when it comes to Socrates. He is not a big fan of democracy. He does not really see that the rabble have the education and the critical thinking and the insight, nor the vested interest to really make good decisions for who should lead the state and how. He is for kind of a ruler elite. Furthermore, he believes the state really trumps all. Now, when you think about how Socrates died, that's really kind of the real perfect example of how he feels that the state trumps all. Be a jack of all trades or a master of none. Totally. We're going to come back to that. Thank you, Jeremy. Socrates died because he was convicted of corrupting the youth. In other words, he was a teacher who was filling the minds of the youth with ideas that the state didn't like, right? So, and yes, Timothy, this does come back to the Electoral College. So so he was convicted of corrupting the youth, and he was ordered to drink hemlock, I think it was, a poison. And so he drank the hemlock. Now, why did he drink the hemlock? Because he believed that the state has greater authority than the individual. And so, yeah, he went ahead and did it. Now, there's other reasons as well. So, if you've studied this in your philosophy class and so forth, I get there's more to it. But the point I want to focus on now is that even in his life and death, he believed that the state ruled the individual. So, for Socrates, the idea that we would try to do everything wouldn't make sense. We should do one thing really well for the point of the state. So let's pause and ask a question here. And there it is. What are all the advantages and disadvantages to specializing in a particular field? Right? So just start with advantage or disadvantage. What are the advantages and disadvantages to specialization? So let's play with that idea. Okay, fantastic. Let's come back. So, Timothy pointed out some disadvantages that have stung many of us and may very well sting you in the future. Once you get really, really specialized in a certain field, if that job becomes obsolete and people no longer need that particular job, you're really out of luck because you have spent your whole career developing this skill set. And when that skill set's no longer necessary, that's really, really, really tough. So, yeah, I absolutely. I remember when I was a kid, and I mean, I was this big guy. So, I was a kid and I watched this news report where I forget who made the Maverick missile. So, Jeremy, maybe you can remind us who produced the Maverick missile. And back when I was a kid, the Maverick missile was like the missile. It was really the cool, awesome, amazing thing. Well, this company ended up laying off a lot of engineers. And the news reporter was interviewing this one engineer, and he was a PhD engineer. And the news reporter said, well, you'll be able to get a job pretty quick. You're a PhD engineer. And he says, you don't understand. I have spent 25 years building this one kind of missile. I can't make anything else. I mean, I am so specialized that I couldn't build a toaster. And I thought, wow, even as a kid, I thought, wow, that really goes to show that you can become overly specialized. Okay, so let's look at some of these others. Great comments. Hayden, disadvantage. Multiple people specialize in the same thing. Limited work. Yes, a market can be glutted, right? Absolutely. It's really interesting, and this happens a lot in free market economies, and we will talk about this. Everybody, what Hayden just said is going to be a major point of discussion in a few lectures. The market says, oh, we really need something, and so everybody majors in that, but then you have too many people that major in it, and so then the market says, oh, we don't need as many, and so it's really hard for the two lines to align. Absolutely. So, Mason, advantages can be greater technology advancements in society. Disadvantages, few people can actually check their work if it is correct. Oh my gosh, you're right. Let's talk about that advantage. Here's the thing: is the more you specialize in something, the better you get at it. It's pretty simple. You get muscle memory, you get experience, you bring innovation, you try new things, you experiment, all that sort of stuff. The more you specialize, the better you get. So your quality goes up and your efficiency goes up the faster you get. Think about it. There are things that you can do now that when you first started doing them, you're like, oh my gosh, this takes forever and my output sucks. But today, it doesn't take forever at all and your output is awesome, right? So it's like learning an instrument, all right? The more you practice, the better you get, the better your quality, the more efficient. So the advantage there, pretty darn strong. You're absolutely right, Mason. Ryan, higher pay could be a big advantage, all right? Let's see, disadvantage would be skill gets you in trouble somehow or is not needed. You're absolutely right. Let's talk about the higher pay. You guys remember in our last lecture, we asked the question, well, now hold on. How do you compete with free labor? Remember, we asked that last week in the lecture. We said we have slave labor in the ecosystem, in the economy. How does somebody who wants to charge money actually compete with slave labor? Well, one of the ways you compete is you get so freaking good at it that people are like, I will pay you to do it for me. Your quality, your output, your efficiency is hands and feet and heads above what anybody else can do. I will pay you for it. So Ryan is absolutely right. Higher pay. Let's see. Aaron with specialization, innovation skyrockets. He's damn right, folks. The more you specialize, the more innovation comes about. Disadvantage, you need other people to play along. Okay, check this out. Aaron's, you need other people to play along with the idea that specialization is good. So here's the thing. Remember when you were on that desert island and you guys knew what the answer was? You were kind of like, okay, we need somebody to assign tasks. We need to figure out what our resources are. We need to prioritize, living and food and shelter and so forth. And so we need everybody to do their part so the community can survive. Well, if everybody is not willing to do their part because they want to go off and discover themselves through meditation and yoga and juggling, well, that doesn't help the community. You need folks to play a part, which means, does the community exist for you and your self-actualization, or do you exist for the community and its survival? All right, we're going to ask that question a lot in these lectures. Jeremy, real world example. Let's bring up a real world example. There goes my chat again. You pop out window. Yeah, every time I do that. Okay, real world example. Kodak film processing. And actually, I'm going to give that a past lecture as well, since he cited Timothy. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. Okay, so Kodak film processing, nearly dead field after starting in 1888, has only, last 4 years of production and processing increased again. Yeah, all you hipsters who want to do real film and listen to LPs and so on and so forth, yeah, it's reviving these industries really fast. Okay, Raytheon, thank you. It was Raytheon Missile Systems. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so there is our real world there, because he helped me with Raytheon. Okay, so here's the thing. Specialization is awesome for the community, and since we're members of the community, we all benefit. On the other hand, it comes at a cost. So let's summarize the advantages. The advantage is you get much better quality, you get much lower cost, you get greater efficiency, you get greater innovation, more features, more functionality. All this comes about because of specialization. On the con side, you are highly reliant on the market and where things are going, right? And you're at the mercy of whether or not something's in demand or not in demand, a certain specialty. Furthermore, there's going to be the free riders, folks who do not contribute, and yet they benefit from the community. And so it's like, all right, to what degree are these folks rewarded and supported and so forth? And then finally, it's you are having to make decisions based on the needs of the community, not on your own individual passions. Yes, you might. I have a passion. What do I have a passion for? Well, heck, I really enjoy making these videos. So I make a lot of the videos. I do the live streaming and so on and so forth. I don't get paid for this. I don't get paid. I'm not even monetized, right? And so I have to kind of make this a hobby because I need to earn my job, earn my money to pay for the real world, right? Okay, so we got this. All right. Let's see. California Typewriter, documentary about one of the, typewriter repair stores in the country. I love that. Yeah. Not many of those left. Okay. So now another thing that this reading talks about is, all right, so if we are going to shift from being self-sufficient to where everybody does everything to specialization, this creates the need for a marketplace. Here's the idea. If I can do everything on my own, I can farm, I can dig my own well, I can sew my own clothes, I can build my own house. I don't do any of that well, and I just can do enough to raise my own family, and that's fine. I don't really have a tremendous need for others, all right? However, I will never be able to provide anything of luxury or future or growth for my family. And this is why for ages and ages and ages and ages, we just lived kind of the same lifestyle, right? Each community, each village just kind of took care of itself, and that's it. Um, on the other hand, if we're all going to specialize, that means I can get my hands on much better clothing than what I can do. I can get my hands on much better wheat and meat than I've been able to produce myself. I can sit on much nicer chairs than I've been able to build myself, because these folks are out there specializing in this crap. Well, how do I find them? Because they don't live next door. This creates the need for the marketplace where everybody comes together and kind of hawks their wares out in the market. It's really kind of interesting because in this day and age, yeah, AdSense, very good, very good. Real world example. Mason, we've kind of seen this resurgence of the marketplace. Now, what I mean by that is, okay, we've always gone to stores and so forth. We get that. That's kind of a marketplace now. But there's this new online marketplace where not just companies say, hey, come buy our stuff, but where individuals can sell goods and services. So, for example, eBay is the obvious example of where others can sell their goods. But think about Etsy, think about Fiverr, think about Thumbnail, think about all these places where people can actually sell goods and services. And these are C2C relationships, customer to customer. There is no middleman in Etsy. Yes, there's Etsy who provides the platform. So, in other words, the land where this market takes place, and all the people come together on this land, this platform to exchange. But it's a free of a middleman marketplace when it comes to things like Etsy, Fiverr, things like that. Aaron says, with specialization, consider even the concept of thread, and thread is used to make. I can't make fine thread with some spinning wheel, but I can certainly appreciate 1,000 thread count. Totally, totally. And specialization gets down, real world example, folks. That gets down to the umpteenth level of specialization. I specialize in thread. Well, I specialize in making fabric. Well, I specialize in making that fabric into sheets. Well, I specialize into selling that fabric, marketing it, all that stuff. It goes down to that level. I love it. Okay. And actually, AdSense, Mason, you get a real world example. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So we've got marketplaces. Now, all right, big deal, right? We got marketplaces. Well, hold on. Because in Thursday's lecture, Aristotle is going to come along and get really PO'd at these marketplaces. And for some decent reasons. Okay, but right now, all we're focusing on is the fact that division of labor is starting to bubble up, which creates a need for a marketplace. All right. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, I mentioned before, this is something that comes up a lot with Socrates, and we are going to discuss in detail all throughout this course. We're going to ask this question over and over. Should society allow everyone to act in their own self-interest? Now, just so you know, this is one of the questions that kind of comes up in the discussions and quizzes and so forth. So you'll want to kind of give some thought to this. There is no answer. This is a critical thinking class, which means who knows, right? So, for example, let's say that, yes, society should allow everyone to act in their own self-interest, because when people are allowed to act in their own self-interest, they bring passion, they bring, innovation, they bring, this sort of love for what they do, because they're able to work autonomously and with intrinsic motivators. They're going to bring about great stuff. So just let people do what they're going to do, because from that will come a lot of great passionate discovery and innovation. On the other hand, that also means that if people want to just live a life of living off of society and I don't want to say panhandling per se, because we're actually going to talk about panhandling in a future lecture, and I'm going to make the case to you that panhandling is a legitimate career. But if they're allowed to just, well, all I want to do with life is travel, so I travel and I take pictures and I just kind of do my thing and I live in my parents' basement and all that stuff. Well, then we need to allow that, because everybody can act in their own self interest. On the other hand, if we say, no, 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 everybody should work for the benefit of the state, all right? Well, now, the positive example of that is you and I benefit, baby. Holy heck. When we have roads and airports and plumbing and electricity and internet and telephony and all the systems that make this an amazing frickin' country, that's because we have, everybody working for the good of the collective. But take it to an extreme, and that's communism. That's where there's one central bureaucracy that says, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. We don't want that, right? So it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act that we're going to discuss a fair amount in these lectures. Now, last thing that we want to play with, and this is going to come up a few times, is one of the things this reading talks about is, you know what? There is a potential for the market to replace war. Now, that's an interesting idea because think about it. War back in the day was really about resources. It was about resources and territory and workforce and access to ports and so on and so forth, and to keep others from getting too strong and to increase your strength. And you know what? The truth is, you need resources. You need access to ports and distribution. You want to make sure that you are relatively strong compared to your neighbor so that you have safety and security. You want access to workforces. So, yeah, those are noble objectives. But the idea that you go to war for those objectives, well, the thing that we're going to start seeing is that the marketplace can replace this, okay? Because now that we have a market and we are specializing in things, well, now instead of getting resources through war, we can get resources through trade. Instead of getting workforce through war, we can get workforce through immigration and so forth. Instead of getting access to ports through war, we can get access through ports through contracts and licenses. And so what we see here is a, slow decline of war for the sake of these purposes, for an increase in accessing these things through markets. And we're going to see more of this as we go forward. But this is just where Plato introduces the idea. Okay? And so that's it. And I'm going to, here, I'll pull this up on the monitor so we can read the quote. You can do anything as long as you have the passion, the drive, focus, and the support, says Sabrina Bryan. And then I add to it and say, so long as you have the right skills, are not too old, meet physical requirements, are willing to make the required sacrifices, and there's a market need that will pay you what you require, then yeah, sure, you can do anything you want. In other words, it's this continuous balance between your own personal passions and desires versus what the market needs. And that's what we start to see here. And by the way, we had a couple of great comments. So Jeremy, the interesting thing about Etsy, Utah has the largest selling companies in the country. Utah also has most women-owned businesses in the country. That is cool. I'm going to have to look that up. I did not know that. I'd love to find the source. If you have a source for that, send it to me because that's really cool. Aaron Clifford, interesting movie regarding access. Farewell to the King. People who go toward access to the route to source of salt. Yes, salt was a, oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to give that past reference to a lecture, right? Because that's referencing a documentary. Um, yes, access to salt was mega. That's why Mahatma Gandhi, when he took that walk down to actually collect a pinch of salt, that was like this mega, mega, mega symbol to the British Empire, because even collecting that pinch of salt was illegal. He was committing a crime just by doing that, because access to salt was one of the things that gave the British Empire power in India. So, yeah, bingo, Aaron. Great example. Guys, you did really, really well today. I want to point out that we got to 10 awesome comments, 10 contributors really fast, and real world examples and references to past lectures or documentaries or previous comments and so forth. Those were racking up. I really appreciate the engagement, the participation. I know this is challenging. I know that this is not the same as a classroom experience, but you guys are doing a tremendous job in making it the next best thing. So I really appreciate it. In our next reading, I want you to focus in areas that talk about natural wealth versus unnatural wealth. So if you're just here along and just kind of enjoying the lecture, as it were, just so you know, the lecture is all wrapped up. We're all done. What I'm going to do now is take a couple of minutes to speak with the students in my class to tell them what to focus on for Thursday's lecture. So with that in mind, if you bear with me, folks, for un momento, por favor. I'm going to pull this up, and let's pull up our, oh, it went over there. Hang on. I have 3 monitors up to keep track of everything going on. Sometimes I get a little lost. Okay, so let's pull up Canvas. We're going to pull up Canvas. Wants me to sign in, make sure I am who I am, and then I have to do the Duo Authenticator. Oh my God. Okay. All right, so let's come to our class here. And we're going to go over to modules. And I'm going to scroll down to Politics by Aristotle. All right. Okay, so let me take a quick look here. All right. Intrinsically, yes. Okay, usury. All right, here we go. I believe in part 1 here, yes, read part 1, okay, this section right here, book 1, part 8, I should say, and look especially for things that talk about natural wealth versus unnatural wealth. You want to look for that natural use for an item versus unnatural use for an item, and look particularly about his attitudes toward retail. All right. Here, look a little bit about same thing, especially around intrinsically useful. It's going to be the same principles around natural use of an item. And then here on part 10, just make sure that part 10, you have a good understanding of what he means by usury. Make sure you have a really good understanding of his definition of usury. Of course, here's today's definition and so forth, but make sure you know what he means by usury. If you do those things, then you are going to be so totally hooked up for Thursday's lecture, okay? And Jeremy, Correction, Utah has the highest women-owned shop per capita in the U.S. Great clarification. Thank you for that, okay? So, everyone, thank you very much. I am going to stick around in the comments if you have any questions or if you want any clarification on anything. Otherwise, great job. great lecture, and we'll talk to you all again on Thursday. Have a fantastic day.